This is starting to go back together. We're cleaning our bolts. Last night off camera I cleaned a lot of the parts and degreased them. These are not finished, but they're degreased and pretty clean. And we have two mechanisms. We're going to use the original casting right there. I ain't decided which one of these I will use yet. They're probably both fine. These are our unloading mechanisms we have to clean yet. But I have my brand new shaft. We took this off of the old one. This will go on there. This bearing gets pressed on, and then this seal will have to be removed because when it is installed, that zerk will feed this bearing, when it's down in here like this, right into the balls of it. So that is one of the main things I'm working on right now. Cleaning up the final parts. This is the old one that I took off with the pulley puller. You can see one side has a seal, one side does not. I am replacing these with a bearing made in Korea, and it is a 6210 RSR. So let me finish cleaning these up and then we'll begin our first press. What I'm trying to do first is make sure everything that I thread on goes on, so that we don't get any cross threading or find out we have a thread problem after we put the bearing on. This end works real well. Got this lightly clamped in the vise, and I'm wanting to make sure it gets stiff, and I back it off. I think it just still has some more of that protecting stuff in it. I got to make sure I don't want to force it and gall the threads, so I'll work on the threads. Okay, I'm glad I did this. I've been working this. This is the one I took off originally today, and it was on so tight that I had to use a chisel. I don't have the right wrench for this, so I would have to dress that up. This actually goes on better than this one that I took off of the previous video where we tore down the power input shaft. So I'm glad I did this. I highly recommend, because it was either cleaning out the threads or but there is some little filings right here. Now this has all been done hand tight, not done with a wrench or anything, and not hammered on. So the threads are good. I like this one because it's not near as marred where I had to use a punch on it. I will need to get me eventually a set of spanner wrenches, I do believe is what they're called. But you can see, cleaning that stuff out, this golden covering, I don't know what that is exactly. I'm glad it's on there because I don't know how old this shaft is. But now everything, so pre-fitting all of this so you don't have those burrs in your bearing, your new bearing. So we're going to go with that one. So I'm glad I pre-fitted, and I urge you to do the same. That way you know you get it tight and everything cleaned, because you don't want to do this again. It's a major job. Should last me my lifetime, as long as I own the combine. For my boys, hopefully they will enjoy running it and not have to go back in here. So now it goes on. I did this all with hand tightening, and so we got a good set of threads on each end. Now we're going to clean up those metal filings. Alright, weighing my options. I have 2 spanner nuts and 2 locking fold-over tab locks for it. Both used. Yes, I'm going to reuse them. I did rehab this with a file. It could be used also. It says N10 on it. Right in there. I don't know if you can see it. This one says TN10 and W10. Anyway, because I have two to work with, I'm choosing the better parts. Both of them screw on by hand onto here. Threads have been double checked. So I'm going to use these, and now we're going to begin to work with the bearing. First thing I have done is clean this and its surface. Everything's good because I want it to go back together well. It will go right there and be holding the bearing and everything into the casting. So I'm going to work on the bearing. I am ready to assemble this. We'll have to get you on a tripod here in a second. I'm going to put some light grease here where the bearing goes. I'm going to use an old bearing, and we're gently going to tap it down onto this fitted shaft. You want to remember to put this behind it in the proper orientation, because that's what's going to hold it into the casting or the bell housing. Okay, we have our piece. We have a thin coat of grease here. I think it will aid in putting it on, and someday down the road if someone wants to take it off. We've got our cast piece in the correct orientation. We've got our new bearing. Now keep in mind you have to have the seal in this side here so that you are against there, and then the grease zerk will be able to grease the other side. But we're not going to remove our seal until we have everything on. And we're going to use a old bearing to protect it, and I'm just going to work my way around. Now as I get closer to the threads where the retaining nut is, I don't want to damage that by accidentally hitting it, so I'm just going to put the second bearing on. You might not have the luxury of doing this, so you have to use a piece of wood or the old bearing you take off, but this should work. This part doesn't do anything, it's just in the bell housing. We're not going to hit it, but if we get a nick on it, it shouldn't be too big a deal. Now we'll see if we're home. We got quite a ways to go. Going down nicely. You can tell we hit home because the sound changed. So we are good to go. Nothing should be gulled. Thread should be saved. And we're bottomed out on our edge of our shaft. Everything is looking good. You don't want to forget to remove this seal. We should now, let's do a test fit on this. Fold over lock. It has an inner lock right there, lip, that goes down in this groove right there. We'll remove the seal before we tighten this, and then we will run everything down here and make sure this goes on. This is our best nut. We want to make sure that it bottoms out onto the race of the bearing. That's just hand tight, but everything looks like it's going to work properly. Remembering to remove the seal. Okay, now we will begin to remove the seal ever so gently with a flat screwdriver. Okay. Now that will be greasable from the casting. Got good grease in there for startup, so we should be good. Now we will get our tanged or fanged lock fold over to hold that and then put on our nut. This is the fold over. You can see it has many different positions to catch these notches. Make sure and put the inner one in this keyway groove. There's no keyway there, it's just a retaining keyway to hold this spanner nut in place. I didn't get it taped, but the best tool I have today is a good pipe wrench. And I got this cinched down, and one of the fold overs lines up right here. So we're going to put that fold over in to the slot. You can see we have the fold over in there, and I questioned myself about whether the flat side of the nut should be down, but you can see that that won't settle down in there. So, and we looked at the book and we looked at our disassembly video, and I think that will hold. Now this is as far as we can do the input shaft side. I'm going to put this on. It's by no means ready, but I'm going to put that on to protect the threads on that end for now. And I'm going to set this aside because we have to now get up there and do the disc and get it ready and the bell housing ready to go back on the machine. And then this will slide into the bell housing like so. Right like that. So, and then we can work this way on to the input shaft. We are now ready to remove that. I've been concerned about the torque spec for these. I'm going to go with 18 pounds. It was suggested on the Massey form. It's a 5/16 bolt. And spec charts I've found is 15 to 18 foot-pounds. So that's what I'm going with. I can't find anything in the Massey literature to tell me. We have to clean up this area and prep everything here ready to go back together. So that is our next endeavor. I won't put that on. We'll get it prepped and ready to go, and then we will bring you along for the reassembly.